Welcome back, everyone, to our tutorial on number system. In the past two episodes, we've covered what the number system is, especially as it relates to a worship team, how I use that in my worship team. And then we talked in the last episode on exceptions to the rules. We talked about like flat sevens and different variations on the numbers that you typically use. This episode, I want to focus strictly on how I memorize my music so quickly using the number system. When you first started off on your instrument, when I first started off on my instrument, most of us probably learned our chords and we looked at chord charts and we played along to a chord chart, and we didn't really pay much attention to how each chord actually sounded relative to the key that it was in. So when I was playing in the key of G, I knew that G was in there, but I didn't realize that every chord that I was playing was based around the tonality of a G. Or when I was playing in C, I knew that a C chord was used in there, but I didn't really comprehend that everything in that song was going to be based around the tonality of a C or the C chord. Here's what you need to do to begin to memorize songs quickly. The first thing you need to establish is you need to establish the sound of each chord. So again, guitar player, gonna use the key of G. The 1 in the key of G is a G. The next chord that we want to focus on when we're talking about how to hear chords, the second most important chord in a song, typically, especially in worship, is the 4 chord. So in the key of G, you've got your G. Your 4 chord is a C. This is also kind of known as a pedal chord, because in a worship segment, when you're just kind of filling time, you'll go back and forth between the 1 chord and the 4 chord, just kind of establishing a rhythm back and forth, back and forth. So here I'm going to play my 1 chord, G. Then I'm going to go to my 4. Back to my 1. The 4. Okay. So the 1 chord and the 4 chord, those are what a lot of songs are based around. All of the other chords in most worship songs support those 2 chords. They kind of go around them. Most songs that you'll come across either ends back at home base on the 1, or they might kind of leave it hanging and it'll end on a 4. Very rare is the song that ends on any other chord besides those 2 chords, the 1 or the 4. So when you think about the tonality of each chord, think of how the 1 sounds like it's home base. So in the key of G, this is going to be my home base. And then when I go here, sounds like I've traveled somewhere else and I can stay there for a while, but I always want to return back home. Same thing if I'm in the key of C. So this, I'll establish this is my home base, key of C. And then the 4 chord in the key of C is an F. The tonality of those 2, you want to establish it in your ears. The next chord we're going to talk about is the 5 chord. In the key of G, the 5 chord is a D. Now, the functionality of a 5 chord is most of the time it's a transition chord, meaning that it's a segue between going from the 1 to something else or the 4 to something else. So, for instance, if I'm in the key of G and I want to get to the 4 chord, a lot of times you'll hear this kind of thing. So that little transition was the 5 chord. So the 5 chord is one of those chords that gives you lift back into the chorus. If you're in the bridge, you'll go back to a 5 chord to go back into the chorus. So for instance, on a song like Christ Be Magnified, phrasing on the bridge, you're going from a 4 to a 5 to a 6 to what I would call a 3, which is a 1/3 phrasing. Death is just a doorway into resurrection life. Join you when you rise. And then the very end of that, instead of going to that 1/3, you returning, Lord, with all the angels and the saints, my heart will still be singing. My song will be the same. It goes back to the 5. And then it goes back around to the 1. Oh, Christ be magnified. So that 5 chord is an important segue chord. It also gets you from the 4 chord to the 6 chord. We'll talk about the importance of the 6 chord here in a moment. But if I'm on the bridge, a lot of contemporary worship music, they'll use the 4, 5, 6. They'll use this kind of circular pattern a lot. Getting from a 4 to a 5 to a 6 back to a 1/3. That is what you're hearing in Christ Be Magnified. But it's again, the 5 is used as that ramp that goes to the 6 chord. 4, 5, 6. Or in traditional voicing on a guitar, 4, 5, 6. The next chord we're going to talk about is the 6. In my worship team, again, when I say the 6, they know it's the 6 minor. So we're going to be talking about the 6 minor in the key of G. That's an E minor. There we go. Most songs consist of the 1, the 5, the 4, and the 6. Great song that consists of all those is How Great Is Our God. How great is our God, sing with me, how great is our God. All will sing how great is our God. So in numbers, that is 1, 6, 4, 5, 1. The other minor that you're going to be hearing a lot is the 2 minor. What I like to think of the difference between the 6 minor and the 2 minor is the 2 minor always sounds relative to the 1. It sounds like it's hopeful. It's still got a kind of a somber tone because it's a minor chord. It's a somber chord, but it's a somber, hopeful chord. The 6 sounds more somber, sad. So again, relative to the 1, if I play a 2 minor, it's a minor, but it sounds, there's a little bit of hope there. 6 minor, the 6 sounds sad in relative place to the 1. sad. So once you have these tonalities in your head, you can start picking out what a song sounds like, what the chords are in the song. So again, if we're going back to How Great Is Our God, the numbers for the chorus of that are 1 to the 6 to the 4 to the 5 and back to the 1. This is an excellent song to listen to try to establish in your head what the chords sound like, what the 6 minor sounds like. Now, on the other side of that, I want you to get in mind, I Could Sing of Your Love Forever. You're actually only swapping the minor chord. In the case of How Great Is Our God, you're going 1 to a 6. Again, that's a minor chord. To the 4, to the 5. Now, in the case of I Could Sing of Your Love Forever, it's still using a minor. You're going 1, and then you're using a minor, then you're going to the 4 and the 5. But the only thing you're changing is which minor you're using. You're using the 2. So on I Could Sing Your Love Forever, there, to a 2, to a 4, to a 5. You see how that gives the chorus a totally different sound, even though you're just swapping one of the minor chords. I could sing of your love forever. I could sing of your love forever. The functionality of those 2 minors, the way it sounds totally different. In the case of I Could Sing of Your Love, it's giving a lift. It's giving like hope. It's going up. In How Great Is Our God, it's giving power. It's a powerful song, but it's establishing almost the majesty of our God by incorporating that minor in there. How great is our God? Sing with me. How great is our God? Oh, we'll see how great is our God. Over the mountains and the sea, your river runs with love for me. I will open up my heart, let the healer set me free. So again, I want you to listen to how the numbers sound. The cool thing is, once you establish this is how the numbers sound, you can play it in different keys. So, How Great Is Our God in the key of E, okay? There I am. How great is our God. Go down to the 6, sing with me, how great is our God. And oh, see, to the 5, 4 to the 4, and then the 5. Back to the 1. And then if we do I Could Sing of Your Love Forever, the 1, the 2, the 4, 5. So even though I'm playing in different keys, I'm able to transition quickly in my head because I know how each chord sounds relative to the 1. What you'll need to establish is knowing what chords go with what keys. I'm hoping that you're able to have a basic knowledge of scales. And so again, if you go back to the scale, you're going to know what chords are in that key based on the scale. And we've played guitar enough. If you grew up on chord charts, I didn't necessarily know all of my scales by heart, but I knew enough from years and years of playing. I knew that, in the key of A, I'm using an A a lot. And I seem to be using a D a lot, and I'm using an E a lot. Yeah, so I know in a key of A, I'm using that a lot, and I'm using that a lot, and I'm using that a lot. A, D, and an E. Okay. I get it. And then I'm thinking, you know what? In the key of A, I use an F sharp minor a lot. Yeah, I use that a lot, and I also use a B minor sometimes too. So how does that relate tonality wise to what I was playing earlier? Okay, so let's see here. If I want to play How Great Is Our God in the key of A, I'm going to start off on A, and I know that there's a D and an E in there too. So what are these chords matching? Okay. How great is our God? Sing with me. Now I know that there's a B minor that's used when I'm playing A. Let's see if that sounds right. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great. No, that doesn't sound right. So it must be the other minor, okay? How great is our God? Sing with me, how great. There you go. The F sharp minor sounds right. Oh, we'll see how. What's going to sound right? Is it going to be the E or the D here? Because I know it's a major chord next. How great. Nope. That sounds to me like the 5. It's not the E. It's the D is the 4. So, how great A is our God. Sing with me how great. F sharp minor, the 6 is our God. Oh, we'll see how great. The D, how 5, the E, great is our God. Again, the tonality I'm listening to. If you want to think of it in logic sense, you might pick up in the key of G that my G here, home base, relative to a C, the 5 is just one step up from the C to a D. If I'm thinking of it logically in the key of A, what comes first, the D or the E? The D is first, it's below the E, so D and then E. So I know that the D has to be my 4 chord, and the E, therefore, is my 5 chord. So when you start putting things together logically, it starts making a lot more sense. In the key of C, my F is here. So I know if F is the 4, what is my 5? My 5 is a full step up. It's a G. So once you start hearing these tonalities, let's go another key. Let's go to the key of E. E, and then an A, and then a B. Step up from A is B. Let's go to the key of D. I used to play in the key of D a lot, and I know that in the key of D, I'm using a D, I'm using a G, and I'm using an A a lot. Which one of those is the 4 and which is the 5? Well, I know what's the 4 because the G is below an A. G, and then an A. So there's my 4 chord, there's my 5 chord. A quick way to establish what the 4 chord is in guitar world, it's the sustain. If I say I'm playing a G sus, I'm adding a note to make it a sustain. The note that I'm adding is the 4. And our 4 chord in the key of G is a C. The chord, if you're thinking tonality, the chord that sounds closest to your roots sustain chord is the one that's going to be your 4. I'm here, key of G, and I add a C. That right there is my 4 chord, because this sounds relatively close to this. If I'm playing in the key of C, if I add this guy here, I'm adding an F. That's my 4. So a lot of times, as a guitar player, to fake the sound of an F, I often do a sustain, and I just bring my thumb around there, and that having the F in the bass over a C suspended chord gives it the illusion of that F sound. So you're going to start figuring out how to make really cool chord sounds as well, but I digress. Again, we're just talking about the tonality of things. The A, I'm adding the D. The 6th chord is the relative minor of the 1 chord. What I mean by that is often you can change out a 6 chord for 1 chord, a 6 minor for the 1 chord, and you can have it sing melody-wise just the same. Key of G, you've got this here, is your 1, there's your 6. So let's use the song, Lord, I Lift Your Name on High, as a little experiment here. Lord, I Lift Your Name on High goes from a 1 to a 4 to a 5 to a 4, kind of back and forth there. I'm going to sing that through with the 1, and then I'm going to swap the 1 for a 6 and see if I can still sing it the same way. Here we go. Lord, I lift your name on high. Still on the 1. Lord, I love to sing your praise. I'll swap to a 6 here. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. You came from heaven to earth to show the way from the earth to the cross. That whole time I'm using the 6 there. Now, the cool thing about this, everything is always true. Whatever key you find that you're using a G in, its relative minor is always going to be the E minor. So here's the cool thing. The relative minor to the 2 chord in the key of G is an A minor. I can swap out the same way I can do with a 6. I can swap out a 2 for a 4 and give it a different kind of jazzy flair. So when you're an MD and you're calling numbers, ooh, I want to change this up a little bit. I want it to sound a little bit different, spice it up. I'm going to throw, instead of playing a 4 here, I'm going to throw a 2 in here and make it sound a little different. So here we go. Going to play Lord, I Lift Your Name on High again. First, the traditional way. Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. Okay, that's the traditional way. Okay, I'm going to play Lord, I Lift Your Name on High the traditional way with the 4 chord, and then I'm going to swap it for a 2. Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I love to sing. Okay, now as the MD, I'm going to be like, let's change it up this time. Go to the 2. So here we go. I'm going to do it again. Lord, I lift your name on high. Go to the 2 this time. Lord, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. So I can swap the 2 around. Now, check this out. This is fun. I know that the 3 minor is not used often. In fact, again, if you go back to my original video, when I say 3 and I call a 3, everybody in my team knows that it's a 1 over 3 in the key of G. That's a G over B. But there is such a thing as a 3 minor. Right there. You can do the same thing with a 3 minor, swapping it in for a 5. It's very cool. Once you start realizing how chords work together, then you can start doing all kinds of things with them. So the relative minor to the G is always an E minor. The relative minor to the C is always an A minor, and the relative minor to a D is always a B minor. So I could do the same thing. Here we go. Let's see if it works. I'm going to do Lord, I Lift Your Name on High with a 1, a 4, and a 3 minor instead of a 5. Let's see how it sounds. Traditional first. Lord, I lift your name on high. Now I'm going to throw the 3 minor in this time. Lord, I love to sing your praises. Kind of gives it a little bit of spice. Woo! I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. The song that comes to mind that uses the 3 minor and the 5 swap that you might have heard of is a song called Holy and Anointed One. And it traditionally is played with a 1 to a 3 to a 4, and then a 1 to a 5 to a 4. Now all they're doing is they're swapping the relative minor for its relative major, the 3 minor and the 5 minor. So here's how it sounds. Jesus, 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 Holy and Anointed One, Jesus. So you can see how that 3 minor kind of swaps it for some kind of a different flavor, okay? So here's the cool thing. In the key of G, my A minor is my 2 chord. Now, if I go over to the key of C, that relative minor transfers with it. So now that I'm in the key of C, and C is my root position, I know right away its relative minor is an A minor, so that means the A minor is the 6. And then I know a lot of these things, but I also know that the relative minor to the F is the D minor. So I know the D minor is the 2 chord in the key of C. But if I go to F, I know that the D minor now becomes the 6 minor. It's crazy how those things work. So once you hear how chords fit together, it's so cool. You can start picking out how songs are played. You can actually hear them. So this is the kind of the introduction to how to memorize songs quickly. You first want to establish the tonality of the chords. Establish the tonality of what each chord sounds like. Pick a song that you know well. Pick a song you know well. Go out and find the number chart to it. Listen to the song and watch the numbers. Really get in your head what each number sounds like. Do that, and then come back here for my second part of this class on how to memorize songs quickly, because this is going to be the key to how to unlock, how do I learn songs quickly. So come back for part 2 of this, and we're going to really crank it up on how you can learn songs quickly. Hope this helped. Learn the tonality of your chords, and then come back for part 2 of this. We'll see ya.